In the heart of Mexico City, the air was filled with the rich aroma of spices and grilled meats, a testament to the culinary delights of La Casa de Sabor, one of the city's most bustling restaurants. The clinking of glasses, the chatter of eager diners, and the laughter of friends celebrating life created a vibrant symphony that echoed throughout the establishment. Among the waitstaff, Miguel stood out not only for his efficiency but also for his warm smile and genuine kindness. His dark hair was neatly combed and his crisp white shirt hugged his frame, reflecting a professionalism that he took pride in. Miguel was in his element, moving swiftly between tables, balancing plates of steaming enchiladas and colorful tacos, always ready with a friendly word or a helpful suggestion. Yet, amidst the lively atmosphere, his gaze often drifted to a solitary figure nestled in a corner table, a frail, elderly woman named Doña Rosa. She was a regular at the restaurant, her presence marked by an air of quiet dignity. Today, however, Miguel noticed her distress as she struggled to count the coins in her weathered hands, each one a testament to a lifetime of hard work and sacrifice. As Miguel approached her table, he could see the embarrassment etched on her face. Her thin fingers trembled as she attempted to gather the coins scattered before her, a few rolling off the table and clinking against the tiled floor. It was a scene that tugged at Miguel's heart. He could feel the weight of her struggle. He leaned slightly, his voice softening. "Doña Rosa, may I help you with that?" Startled, she looked up, her eyes wide with surprise. "Oh, Miguel, it's nothing really, Her voice trailed off and she glanced at the menu, her cheeks flushing with shame. "I wanted a simple meal, but it seems—" Miguel shook his head, his determination surging. "Today, your meal is on me. You've come here so many times, and it's my pleasure to serve you." Her eyes glistened with gratitude, a mixture of disbelief and appreciation. "But, Miguel, I cannot accept charity. I have my pride." "Sometimes pride must take a back seat to kindness," he replied, his smile unwavering. "Please, let me do this for you." After a moment of hesitation, Doña Rosa's shoulders relaxed, and she nodded slowly, a faint smile breaking through her initial reluctance. "Thank you, Miguel. You are a good man." As Miguel turned to head back to the kitchen, he felt a warmth spread through him, knowing he had made a small difference in someone's day. He quickly placed the order and returned with a beautifully plated meal, the vibrant colors of the food matching the lively decor of the restaurant. He set the plate in front of her, the steam rising and filling the air with the scent of spices. "Here you go, Doña Rosa. I hope you enjoy it," he said, watching her face light up as she took in the meal before her. "Gracias, Miguel. You have no idea how much this means to me," she said, her voice thick with emotion. But as the evening wore on, the restaurant continued to buzz with activity. Miguel was darting from table to table when he caught sight of Doña Rosa again. This time, however, her frail hands fumbled and a cascade of coins slipped from her grasp, clattering to the floor. The sound drew the attention of nearby diners, and Miguel's heart sank at the sight of her embarrassment. "Doña Rosa!" he exclaimed, rushing over to her side. "Let me help you." She waved her hands dismissively, but her face was flushed with humiliation. "I'm so sorry, Miguel. I didn't mean to disturb anyone." Miguel knelt down, gathering the coins with gentle care. "It's all right. It happens to the best of us." He could see that she was trying to maintain her composure, but the strain was evident in her eyes. "Please don't worry about it. Just focus on enjoying your meal." As he handed her the last of the coins, he made a quick decision. "You know what? This meal is truly on me today. No more counting coins." Tears welled in her eyes, and she grasped his hand tightly. "Miguel, I cannot thank you enough. You are a true angel." Before Miguel could respond, a loud voice interrupted them. "What is going on here?" Don Carlos, the restaurant owner, had appeared, his brow furrowed with irritation as he approached the table. The air grew tense as he looked between Miguel and Doña Rosa. "Miguel, do you think this is a charity? We run a business here, not a soup kitchen." Miguel straightened, a mix of defiance and concern swirling within him. "Don Carlos, she needed help. It was just one meal. It won't hurt the bottom line." "Do you think I care about your misguided compassion?" Don Carlos snapped, his voice rising above the din of the restaurant. "You're giving away my resources without even asking me. Do you understand the consequences of your actions?" Miguel took a deep breath, his heart racing. "I understand that kindness is more important than profits. Doña Rosa is a good person who deserves a break." "Enough!" Don Carlos shouted, drawing the eyes of several customers. "You're fired, Miguel. You've crossed the line." A stunned silence fell over the restaurant. Miguel's heart dropped. "You can't be serious." "Serious as a heart attack," Don Carlos replied coldly. "Get out of my restaurant and don't come back." As the weight of the moment settled, Miguel felt a mix of disbelief and anger rise within him. He glanced at Doña Rosa, whose eyes were wide with concern, and then back at Don Carlos. "You really want to do this over one meal, over kindness?" "Kindness doesn't pay the bills, Miguel. You need to learn that." With a heavy heart, Miguel turned away from the table, feeling the eyes of the diners on him. He took a final glance at Doña Rosa, who looked utterly distraught. "I'm so sorry, Doña Rosa. I didn't mean for this to happen." "Don't worry about me, Miguel. You did what you thought was right," she said, her voice trembling. With his heart heavy, Miguel walked toward the exit, the bustling restaurant fading into the background as he stepped outside. The vibrant streets of Mexico City, once filled with promise, now felt foreign and unwelcoming. He couldn't shake the feeling of loss and confusion as he replayed the events in his mind. Was it worth it? Would he regret his decision? As he walked down the sidewalk, he felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the city, but all he could see was the disappointment etched into the face of Doña Rosa. He had chosen kindness, but at what cost? The questions swirled in his mind as he took each step, uncertain of what lay ahead. As Miguel stepped out of the restaurant, the vibrant sounds of Mexico City enveloped him like a warm embrace. Yet he felt utterly detached from it all. The chatter of families enjoying their meals, the laughter of children playing in the streets, and the distant strumming of a guitar seemed to fade into the background as he walked aimlessly down the bustling sidewalk. Each step felt heavier than the last, weighed down by the heartache of what had just transpired. He couldn't shake the image of Doña Rosa's grateful smile from his mind. She had been so appreciative of his kindness, and it had filled him with purpose, albeit briefly. Now, that moment felt like a distant dream, overshadowed by the harsh reality of his dismissal. "What have I done?" he muttered under his breath, his fists clenched at his side. "Was it worth it?" The questions swirled in his mind like the leaves caught in the autumn breeze, spiraling into uncertainty. In his heart, Miguel knew he had acted out of compassion, but the consequences had been dire. What would he do now? The thought of searching for another job made his stomach churn. The restaurant industry was unforgiving, especially for someone who had just been fired. As he walked, he glanced at the storefronts lining the street, each one a reminder of the life he had momentarily cherished. The laughter from a nearby cafe pierced through his thoughts, causing him to stop in his tracks. "Hey, are you okay?" a voice called out, breaking through the fog enveloping him. He turned to see a young man, perhaps in his 20s, with a bright smile and a skateboard tucked under his arm. The boy's casual demeanor was a stark contrast to Miguel's turmoil. "I'm fine. Miguel replied, forcing a smile even as his heart ached. Fine? You look like you just lost your puppy, the young man teased, his tone light-hearted. I'm Marco, by the way. You're not from around here, are you? No, I work nearby, Miguel said, pointing back towards the restaurant, though the words felt heavy on his tongue. Ah, I get it. Bad day, Marco asked, his expression shifting to one of understanding. Miguel sighed, the weight of his emotions spilling out. I just got fired for helping someone, a poor old woman. She couldn't pay for her meal. That's messed up, Marco said, shaking his head. People should be rewarded for kindness, not punished. Miguel nodded, appreciating the young man's empathy. I just wanted to help. It felt right. Right is a rare currency in this city, Marco replied, his eyes suddenly sparkling with mischief. But hey, if you're looking for something to do, my friends and I are planning a community project. We could use an extra hand. Interested? Miguel raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Community project? Yeah, we're starting a community garden in the park. It's going to be amazing. Fresh veggies for everyone, and we want to make it a space where people can come together, Marco explained enthusiastically, his passion infectious. Miguel hesitated. He had never worked on a project like that before, but the idea of contributing to something meaningful sparked a flicker of hope within him. I don't know anything about gardening, he admitted. Neither do we. That's the fun part, Marco laughed. We're all learning together. Come on, it'll be good for you. And besides, we could use someone with your heart. Something shifted in Miguel at that moment, a small light igniting amidst the darkness of his recent experiences. Okay, he said, surprising even himself. I'll give it a try. Awesome. We're meeting at the park in an hour. Just look for the big tree, Marco said, grinning widely before skating off, leaving Miguel standing there with a sense of renewed purpose. His thoughts drifted back to Doña Rosa, and he wondered if he would see her again. He hoped she had enjoyed her meal, and he wished he could have shared this newfound excitement with her. The thought of her smile brought a warmth to his heart, and he quickened his pace towards the park. As he arrived, Miguel took a moment to soak in the atmosphere. The park was vibrant, alive with the sounds of laughter and the scent of blooming flowers. He spotted Marco and a small group gathered under a sprawling tree, surrounded by bags of soil, seeds, and gardening tools. The camaraderie among them was palpable, and Miguel felt a sense of belonging he hadn't experienced in a long time. "Hey, there he is!" Marco called, waving Miguel over. "This is everyone!" Miguel was introduced to a diverse group of young people, each with their own stories and reasons for joining the project. Ana, a spirited young woman with a passion for cooking, caught Miguel's attention immediately. She was animatedly discussing plans for a community kitchen, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "Food brings people together," she explained, her voice vibrant. "Imagine a place where we can all share meals, learn recipes, and celebrate our cultures." Miguel found himself drawn to her passion. "That sounds incredible," he said, his heart swelling with the possibilities. "I could help with that." "Really? That would be amazing. We need all the help we can get," Ana replied, her smile brightening the space around them. As they began to work, Miguel felt a sense of joy bubbling within him. Digging through the soil, planting seeds, and sharing stories, he found himself laughing and connecting with these strangers who were quickly becoming friends. They spoke of dreams, aspirations, and the challenges they faced, weaving a tapestry of hope and resilience that enveloped Miguel. The afternoon passed in a blur of activity and laughter. Miguel felt lighter, the burdens of his recent past beginning to lift. As they wrapped up for the day, he caught a glimpse of the sunset casting a golden hue across the park. It felt like a promise, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there was light to be found. "Hey, Miguel, come join us for dinner," Ana called out, her voice inviting. Miguel hesitated, glancing at the time. He thought of the restaurant, of Doña Rosa, and of the kindness he had tried to embody. "I'd love to," he finally said, a smile creeping onto his face. As they gathered around a picnic table, sharing dishes and laughter, Miguel realized that this was where he was meant to be. He looked around at his new friends, feeling a sense of belonging he hadn't known he craved. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, he felt hopeful. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Miguel made a silent vow to carry the spirit of kindness forward, whatever it may cost him. Back at the restaurant, the air was thick with the aroma of sizzling fajitas and the chatter of patrons enjoying their meals. Don Carlos, a portly man with a slicked-back hairstyle and an air of self-importance, stood at the center of the bustling dining room, flaunting his authority with a boastful grin. He raised his glass of tequila, calling for attention from his staff. "Listen up, everyone," he boomed, his voice cutting through the din like a knife. "Today, we celebrate a new chapter in our establishment. With Miguel gone, we can finally focus on what really matters: profit. This restaurant is not a charity, it's a business, and I intend to keep it that way." A smattering of applause followed, but the enthusiasm felt forced and thin. The staff exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions a mix of discontent and concern. Among them was Rosa, a young waitress with kind eyes who had witnessed Miguel's kindness to Doña Rosa just hours before. She couldn't shake off the feeling of disloyalty that now hung over her like a dark cloud. "Is this really what we want?" Rosa whispered to her colleague Javier as they cleared a nearby table. Miguel was the heart of this place. He cared about the customers, not just their wallets. Javier nodded, looking downcast. "I know. It's hard to believe he's gone. It shouldn't have ended like that." He glanced toward the kitchen where Miguel had always been a friendly presence, his laughter echoing during the dinner rush. Don Carlos may think he's making the right call, but he's driving away the soul of the restaurant. Meanwhile, in the park, Miguel was finding solace in the laughter of the young group he had joined. Ana, a spirited woman with a contagious smile, stood at the forefront of their makeshift project. She was explaining her vision of a community kitchen that would not only serve food, but also nourish the spirit of the neighborhood. "Imagine a place where everyone can gather, share meals, and build connections," she said, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "We could provide meals for those in need, teach cooking classes, and create a sense of community. What do you think, Miguel?" Miguel felt a warmth spreading through him at her words. It was as if a flame had been ignited within his heart, pushing away the remnants of sorrow he had carried since his dismissal. "I think it's a beautiful idea, Ana," he replied, his voice steady. "I've seen firsthand how a simple act of kindness can change someone's day. I want to help." "Great, then let's get started." Ana clapped her hands together, rallying the group. "We'll meet every Saturday to plan, cook, and figure out the logistics. Together, we can make this happen." Over the next few weeks, Miguel threw himself into the project with newfound energy. They organized food drives, gathered donations, and even secured a small space in the community center. Ana became a close friend, her laughter brightening even the dullest of days. Their bond deepened as they shared stories and dreams, and Miguel felt a sense of belonging he had longed for since leaving the restaurant. One afternoon, as they prepared for a cooking class, Miguel found himself sharing his story with Ana. "I used to work at a restaurant, you know," he said, chopping onions with rapid precision. "I loved it, loved the people I met, but I lost my job because I chose to help someone instead of focusing on the bottom line." Ana looked at him, her expression softening. "You did the right thing, Miguel. Not everyone would have had the courage to stand up for what they believed in. Kindness is a rare quality in this world. And we need more people like you." He paused, reflecting on her words. "Thank you, Anna. It means a lot to hear that. Sometimes I wonder if I made a mistake. Maybe I should have just followed orders." "Never doubt the power of kindness," she replied firmly. "What you did for Doña Rosa was not just an act of generosity, it was a lifeline for her. You gave her hope when she needed it most." Miguel smiled, his heart swelling with gratitude for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than himself. He felt rejuvenated, as if the burdens he had carried were slowly being lifted away. They continued chopping and stirring, the kitchen filled with the mouth-watering smell of garlic and spices, creating a symphony of scents that danced in the air. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the park, Miguel and Anna stood back to admire their work. The tables were adorned with colorful tablecloths, and the aroma of their cooking wafted through the air, inviting people from the neighborhood to join them. "Tomorrow is the first day of our community kitchen," Anna said, her excitement palpable. "I can't wait to see how everyone responds." "Me too," Miguel replied, the anticipation lighting a fire in his chest. "I hope it brings joy to those who need it most." As they cleaned up, Miguel couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was about to happen. He felt as though they were on the cusp of a change, not just in their lives, but in the lives of others. This project was more than just cooking. It was about building community, fostering connection, and reigniting hope in a world that often felt dark and lonely. The next day, the community kitchen opened its doors. Miguel and Anna greeted everyone with warm smiles, inviting them to share in the meal. The atmosphere buzzed with laughter and chatter as people gathered around the tables, their hearts lighter than before. Miguel served plates of steaming food, his heart swelling with pride as he watched the joy on people's faces. He moved from table to table, sharing stories and laughter, feeling a sense of purpose that had been absent in his life for far too long. "See? This is what it's all about," Anna said, joining him at a table where a family of 4 sat, enjoying their meal. "These moments make everything worthwhile." Miguel nodded, his eyes twinkling. "You're right. I thought I had lost everything when I was fired, but I found something even more valuable here." As the laughter and joy continued to fill the air, Miguel felt a surge of hope. He knew that life had a way of surprising him, and as he looked around at the faces of his new friends, he realized that he was no longer alone. The kindness he had shown to Doña Rosa had led him to this moment, and he wouldn't trade it for anything. But as the night wore on, Miguel's thoughts drifted back to the restaurant, to Don Carlos and the choices he had made. Would he ever face the consequences of his actions? Would the restaurant continue to thrive, even at the cost of compassion? His musings were interrupted by Anna, who stood beside him, a grin lighting up her face. "Hey, look at that family over there. They're loving the food. You should go talk to them." Miguel chuckled, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "You're right. I'd love to hear their thoughts." As he approached the table, ready to share a moment of connection, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much larger story. He had chosen kindness, and now he was ready to embrace whatever came next. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm golden glow over the bustling streets of Mexico City, Miguel and Anna busily prepared for the grand opening of the community kitchen. The aroma of fresh ingredients filled the air, mingling with the sounds of laughter and the clattering of pots and pans. For Miguel, this space had become a sanctuary, a place where he could channel his passion for helping others after the heart-wrenching upheaval at the restaurant. "Do you think we have enough beans?" Anna asked, her hands deftly chopping vegetables. Her dark hair swayed as she moved, and her eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. Miguel couldn't help but smile at her energy. She had a way of making the most mundane tasks feel like an adventure. "Yes, "I think we'll be fine. Besides, we can always make more if needed," he replied, wiping his brow with the back of his hand. The excitement of the day ahead filled him with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in a long time. But a shadow of anxiety lingered in the back of his mind, a nagging worry that the community's response might not meet their hopes. Just then, the door swung open and the crisp sound of footsteps echoed through the kitchen. Miguel turned to see a man in a worn-out suit, his hair disheveled and his eyes wide with urgency. Miguel's heart skipped a beat. There was something familiar about the man. He was calling out, his voice shaking with desperation, "Doña Rosa! Doña Rosa!" Miguel exchanged a glance with Ana, who looked equally bewildered. "It's him," Miguel whispered, recognition dawning on him. "It's Don Felipe, Rosa's husband." He felt an overwhelming rush of emotions, a mix of dread, curiosity, and a touch of hope. What could have brought him here? "Do you know him?" Ana inquired, stepping closer to Miguel, her curiosity piqued. "Yes, he's Rosa's husband. I thought he was gone forever." Miguel struggled to articulate the weight of his realization. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, cautiously approaching the frantic man. "Excuse me, sir," Miguel said, raising his hands to indicate peace. "Are you looking for Doña Rosa?" Don Felipe's eyes landed on Miguel, and for a moment they were locked in an intense gaze filled with unspoken questions. "Yes. Have you seen her? I've been searching everywhere. I thought I lost her forever." His voice cracked, filled with an anguish that tugged at Miguel's heart. "Please, calm down. She was here not long ago," Miguel replied softly, gesturing for Felipe to sit down. "I can help you find her." Felipe sank into a chair, his shoulders slumped in defeat. "I've looked for years. I thought she had died." Tears glistened in his eyes, and Miguel felt the weight of the man's sorrow wash over him. "Why don't you tell me what happened?" Miguel prompted gently, sensing that the story might be crucial to understanding the urgency of Felipe's search. Ana stood beside him, concern etched on her face. "I was working in a distant town when she disappeared," Felipe began, his voice trembling. "We had a fight, nothing serious, just a misunderstanding. But when I returned home, she was gone. I searched for weeks, but it was as if she had vanished into thin air. I thought I'd never see her again." His voice broke, and Miguel could see the depth of his love and pain. Miguel's mind raced. If Rosa had been living under a different identity, there must have been reasons that had kept her from Felipe all this time. "Did you ever hear from her? Did she leave a message?" he asked, attempting to piece together the puzzle. "No," Felipe replied bitterly. "Nothing. I searched through every city, every town. I even asked the police, but they couldn't help me. I've been lost without her." His eyes glistened with unshed tears, revealing the raw vulnerability beneath his hardened exterior. Miguel felt a pang of guilt. If he hadn't given away Rosa's meal, would Felipe have found her sooner? The thought twisted in his stomach, forcing him to confront the ramifications of his kindness. "She's safe now," Miguel assured Felipe, trying to offer some comfort. "She came to the restaurant a little while back. She was happy and well." A flicker of hope ignited in Felipe's tired eyes. "Really? She's okay?" He leaned forward, desperate for confirmation. "Yes, she was smiling and seemed content, but she must be worried about you too," Miguel said, glancing at Ana, who nodded in agreement. "You should come with us to the community kitchen. It's where she might be headed." Without a moment's hesitation, Felipe rose to his feet, a new determination lighting his face. "Yes, please, I need to see her. I've waited too long." The urgency in his voice spurred Miguel and Ana into action. As they hurried through the streets, Miguel's heart raced. This reunion could change everything for Rosa and Felipe, but he couldn't shake the shadows of doubt creeping into his mind. What if Rosa wasn't ready to see him? What if her past was too complicated to reconcile with their present? "Do you think she'll be happy to see him?" Anna asked, breaking the silence as they navigated through the bustling crowd. "I hope so," Miguel replied, his mind swirling with possibilities. "But I can't help but worry about what she's been through. It's not just about them reuniting, it's about everything that led to this moment." As they approached the community kitchen, Miguel felt a mix of anticipation and dread. The place buzzed with activity, the air thick with the scent of spices and simmering stews. They stepped inside, and the warmth enveloped them, a stark contrast to the cold uncertainty Miguel felt within. "Rosa!" Felipe called out, his voice echoing through the kitchen. The bustling activity paused momentarily as everyone turned to look at the man who had burst through the door, a whirlwind of emotion. Miguel and Ana stood back, watching as Felipe's face contorted with hope and fear. Would Rosa recognize him? Would she find joy in this unexpected reunion after all the years of separation? Miguel could only hope that love would prevail. Suddenly the kitchen door swung open, and the sound of familiar laughter filled the air. Miguel's heart raced as he turned to see Doña Rosa herself entering the room, her face aglow with joy. She carried a basket of fresh produce, her sturdy frame a testament to her resilience. The world around them seemed to fade as Felipe stepped forward, his voice trembling. "Rosa!" he cried, taking a step closer, disbelief etched across his features. Rosa froze, her eyes wide with shock. The basket slipped from her hands, clattering to the floor. "Felipe," she whispered, the name a prayer on her lips. Tears brimmed in her eyes as she staggered back, a mixture of joy and fear flooding her heart. The world around them blurred as they stood there, two souls reunited against the odds, each carrying the weight of their pasts as they faced a future uncertain yet filled with hope. Miguel felt a rush of conflicting emotions, joy for their reunion, yet a lingering worry about what lay ahead. Would their love withstand the years apart? Would Rosa choose to embrace this second chance, or would the shadows of her past pull her back into the darkness? As Felipe took a tentative step closer, Miguel held his breath, knowing that their lives were about to change in ways they could never have imagined. The kitchen filled with an electric tension, each heartbeat echoing the hope and fear that hung in the air like a fragile thread, waiting to be woven into the fabric of their intertwined fates. Miguel led Don Felipe through the bustling streets of Mexico City, the sun beginning to dip below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the vibrant neighborhood. He could feel the palpable tension in the air, a mixture of excitement and anxiety as they approached the community kitchen. It had become a haven for him, a place where he could channel his passion for helping others after his abrupt departure from Don Carlos's restaurant. But now, it felt like a stage set for a reunion that could change everything. "Are you sure she'll be here?" Don Felipe asked, his voice trembling slightly with a blend of hope and fear. His hands fidgeted with the worn edges of his jacket as they neared the kitchen's entrance. "I believe so," Miguel replied, trying to inject reassurance into his tone. "Ana mentioned she'd come by for dinner, and I thought it would be perfect to bring you here. She's been looking forward to meeting you." As they stepped inside, the comforting aroma of spices and simmering vegetables enveloped them, and the lively chatter of volunteers filled the space. Miguel guided Felipe to a table set for three, adorned with colorful tablecloths and bright flowers. As they prepared a simple meal together, chopping vegetables and stirring pots, Miguel couldn't help but steal glances at Felipe. The older man was animated, recounting stories of his life before he lost Rosa, his voice tinged with nostalgia. Miguel listened intently, learning about the couple's early years, their dreams, and the tragedy that had driven them apart. "Rosa always loved cooking," Felipe reminisced, a smile spreading across his face. "She used to make the best tamales. I can still picture her in the kitchen, flour dusting her apron, laughter spilling out like the aroma of her meals. Miguel felt a pang of guilt as he thought of Rosa's recent struggles. He had given her a meal out of kindness, but in doing so, he had unknowingly disrupted the delicate balance of her life. "She deserves happiness, Don Felipe," Miguel said, trying to encourage the man. "You both deserve a second chance." As they continued to prepare the meal, laughter echoed through the kitchen, each shared story knitting a bond between them. Ana, with her vibrant energy, flitted around, ensuring everyone was engaged and productive. She caught Miguel's eye and winked, sensing the weight of the moment. "Are you ready for the big reveal?" she teased, her voice a melodic whisper that danced above the simmering pots. Miguel nodded, his heart racing. "I hope she's ready," he murmured, a sense of dread creeping in. What if Rosa didn't feel the same way? What if the years had changed her too much? "Hey, that's what love is about, right?" Ana replied, her enthusiasm infectious. "It's about finding your way back to each other, no matter how far apart you've been." Miguel smiled at her optimism. Just then, the door creaked open and the familiar sound of light footsteps filled the air. The atmosphere shifted instantly, a hush falling over the kitchen as Miguel's heart skipped a beat. He turned to see Doña Rosa step inside, her frail figure illuminated by the soft light of the setting sun. "Doña Rosa!" Miguel called, his voice breaking slightly. She looked up, her eyes widening in surprise as she recognized Miguel, then shifted her gaze to the slightly disheveled yet endearing figure of Don Felipe standing beside him. "Felipe?" she gasped, her voice filled with disbelief. Tears welled in her eyes, and for a moment, time stood still. Miguel watched, holding his breath, as the realization dawned on Rosa. The years of heartache seemed to dissipate in an instant, replaced by an overwhelming rush of emotions. "Rosa!" Felipe's voice cracked, a mixture of joy and sorrow flooding his features. "I've searched for you everywhere. I thought I lost you forever." He reached out, his hands trembling as they drew closer to her. Rosa's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, and she took a tentative step forward. "I thought you were gone," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I never stopped looking for you." In that moment, the kitchen transformed into a cocoon of raw emotion. Miguel stepped back, allowing the couple to embrace. Rosa's arms wrapped around Felipe, and they held each other tightly, as if afraid to let go. Tears streamed down Rosa's cheeks, and Miguel felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash over him. He had played a part in this reunion, however small, and it filled him with a warmth he hadn't anticipated. Ana stood beside Miguel, her eyes glistening with tears of her own. "This is beautiful," she breathed, her voice filled with awe. "Look at them." Miguel nodded, his heart swelling at the sight before him. The laughter and chatter of the kitchen faded into the background as he watched the couple, lost in their moment. It felt as if the world had paused, allowing them to savor the sweetness of their reunion. As they pulled apart, Rosa wiped her tears, her eyes searching Felipe's face. "I can't believe it's really you," she said, her voice trembling. "I thought I'd never see you again." "I'm here now," Felipe replied, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I've never stopped looking for you. I won't leave you again." Miguel stood a few paces back, letting the moment unfold. He felt a surge of joy for them, yet a lingering fear gnawed at him. What would happen now? Would the past haunt them, or could they truly build a future together? "Come, let's eat," Ana said, breaking the tension in the air. "You two must be starving after all that searching." She moved towards the table, urging Rosa and Felipe to join her. As they sat down, Miguel couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to their story than met the eye. Rosa glanced at Miguel, her expression shifting from joy to something more somber. Miguel, She started, but Felipe interrupted, his hand gently squeezing hers. "Let's celebrate first," he said, a smile breaking through the tension. "We have so much to discuss, but right now I want to enjoy this moment with you." Miguel nodded, grateful for Felipe's instinct to focus on the present. He served the meal with care, the vibrant colors of the dishes reflecting the warmth of the moment. Laughter and stories flowed freely as they shared the meal, but Miguel couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The laughter echoed in the kitchen, but Miguel sensed the shadows lurking just beneath the surface of their joy. He caught snippets of conversation, Rosa recounting tales of her life, of how she had survived alone, her heart still tethered to Felipe despite the years apart. Yet Miguel couldn't ignore the unanswered questions that lingered in the air. What had truly happened to Rosa during their time apart? And why had Felipe been searching for her for so long? As they finished the meal, Miguel glanced at Ana, who seemed to share his concerns. Her expression mirrored his, and he could see the wheels turning in her mind. They would have to dig deeper to uncover the truth behind Rosa and Felipe's separation. For now, though, they basked in the glow of reunion, the laughter mingling with the savory scents of the kitchen. Miguel felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that he had played a part in something beautiful. But as the night wore on, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the calm before a storm. The shadows of the past had a way of creeping back, and he wondered just how prepared they would be to face whatever came next. Rosa and Felipe embraced tightly, their tears mingling as a wave of emotions washed over them. The kitchen, once filled with laughter and anticipation, transformed into a cocoon of profound joy. Miguel stood back, a soft smile playing on his lips, touched by the sight of their reunion. However, the moment crumbled when Felipe suddenly gasped, his grip on Rosa loosening. In an instant, he collapsed to the floor, the joy of the reunion turning into a scene of chaos. "Felipe!" Rosa screamed, her voice piercing through the air. Miguel rushed to him, his heart racing as adrenaline coursed through his veins. He knelt beside Felipe, checking for signs of consciousness. "Stay with us, Felipe! Can you hear me?" Miguel's voice trembled with urgency. Ana, who had been arranging plates for the meal, dropped everything and rushed to Miguel's side, her face pale. "I'll call for help," she shouted, her eyes wide with fear as she sprinted to grab her phone. Rosa fell to her knees beside her husband, cradling his head in her lap. "Ay, Dios mío, Felipe, please," she cried, her voice breaking. Miguel looked up at Rosa, his heart aching at the sight of her despair. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on them all, their hopes, dreams, and newfound beginnings hanging in the balance. As Miguel checked Felipe's pulse, he felt a flicker of relief. It was weak, but it was there. "He's alive," he murmured, trying to reassure Rosa. "Help is on the way." Rosa's hands trembled as she stroked Felipe's hair, whispering soft words of comfort. "Please, my love, come back to me," she pleaded, her voice raw with emotion. As the sound of sirens grew louder in the distance, Rosa's expression shifted from fear to a mixture of desperation and vulnerability. "Miguel," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "there's something I need to tell you, something about my life while Felipe was gone." Miguel glanced at her, his brow furrowing in concern. "Rosa, now isn't the time." "No, please," she interrupted, her eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made his stomach churn. "You need to understand. I've been living under a false identity. I feared for my life, Miguel." Miguel's heart sank. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice steady despite the fear clawing at him. Rosa took a deep breath, her gaze shifting to Felipe's unconscious form. "After Felipe disappeared, I was left with nothing. I had to change my name, my entire life. There were people looking for me. Dangerous people. Her voice quivered and tears spilled down her cheeks. Miguel's mind raced. What kind of people? Felipe was involved in something dangerous, she confessed, her voice cracking under the weight of her revelation. He didn't want me to know, but I found out. When he went missing, I thought they had taken him. I was terrified they would come for me next. So I ran. I became Doña Rosa, the poor old woman no one would recognize. Miguel processed her words, a chill running down his spine. But why didn't you tell Felipe this when you saw him? I thought it was over, Rosa said, her voice thick with emotion. That I could finally live in peace. But now, with him back, I don't know if I can keep hiding the truth. Just then, the paramedics burst through the kitchen door, their presence a stark contrast to the tension in the air. What happened? One of the paramedics asked, rushing to Felipe's side. Miguel stepped back, allowing them space as they assessed the situation. His name is Felipe, Miguel explained quickly. He collapsed after reuniting with his wife, Doña Rosa. The paramedics worked swiftly, checking Felipe's vitals and preparing him for transport. Miguel stood back, his mind swirling with questions. Rosa watched closely, her hands clenching at her sides as she fought to keep her composure. As the paramedics loaded Felipe onto a stretcher, Miguel felt a presence at the door. He turned to see a mysterious figure watching the scene unfold, a knowing smile playing on their lips. The figure was tall and wore a dark coat that obscured their features. Miguel's heart raced, sensing an unsettling energy emanating from the stranger. "Who are you?" Miguel demanded, stepping toward the figure. The stranger chuckled softly, their eyes glinting with something unreadable. "Just an old friend of Rosa's past," they replied cryptically. "Friend?" Miguel echoed, a sense of dread creeping into his voice. "What do you mean?" Before the figure could respond, the paramedics wheeled Felipe out of the kitchen, Rosa trailing closely behind, her face pale and eyes wide with fear. "Felipe!" she called, her voice breaking. The figure leaned against the doorframe, their expression unreadable. "You should be careful, Rosa. The past has a way of catching up with us." Rosa turned at the sound of the stranger's voice, her eyes narrowing. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil. The figure smirked, a glint of mischief in their eyes. "Let's just say, I know things about you that you would rather keep hidden." Miguel stepped protectively in front of Rosa, feeling a rush of anger. "Get out of here," he warned, his voice low and dangerous. The figure raised their hands in mock surrender, their grin widening. "I'm not here to cause trouble, yet. But you might want to keep an eye on your friend, Miguel. There are people who wouldn't take kindly to her being back in the picture." As the paramedics pushed Felipe out the door and into the waiting ambulance, Miguel's mind raced with the implications of the stranger's words. He looked back at Rosa, whose face was etched with fear and uncertainty. "Rosa, what does this mean?" Miguel asked, urgency lacing his tone. Rosa looked at him, her eyes glistening with tears. "I don't know, Miguel. I thought I could escape it all, but it seems that my past has come back to haunt me." The ambulance doors closed, and as it pulled away, Miguel felt the weight of the situation settle heavily on his shoulders. The world around him felt uncertain, with shadows lurking just beyond sight. "Do you trust me, Rosa?" he asked, his voice filled with determination. "I do," she replied, her voice steady but filled with fear. "Then we'll face this together," he promised, feeling a surge of resolve. "No matter what comes next." As they stood together in the aftermath of chaos, Miguel realized that this was just the beginning of a much larger story, one filled with secrets, danger, and the resilience of the human spirit. The bond between them had deepened, and he was ready to fight for the truth, no matter the cost.